All right, today you're gonna draw this box. This box has dark, medium, and light faces that are all smooth, no gradients, just solid values. After that, you're gonna draw a gradient from dark to light, and I don't care what direction it goes, but you're gonna try to make it really smooth so that you can't tell where medium gray starts and dark gray starts and whatever. Okay, so step one, you're gonna draw a square. And then see these 3 points? From each of them, you're going to draw a line that goes up to the left on a diagonal. All 3 of your diagonal lines should be at approximately the same angle, up and down, or angle, and approximately the same length. So let me do that now. It's not perfect, but it'll work. So now you do it. Great. Okay, then these edges connect straight up and down. These edges connect straight side to side. So now you should have a cube. If you have something more like this, honestly at this point, it's good enough. Now you're gonna see me working upside down. So you're gonna shade the front face with a medium value. And you'll notice that the way I'm holding my pencil, it's almost flat down against the paper. The higher up the angle is, the harder it is to avoid streakiness. The flatter you can get it close to the paper, the better. So an underhand grip or an overhand grip is good for this, whereas traditional tripod makes it trickier. Okay, now I've left some common problems in here on purpose. One common problem is people leaving gaps at the edges. And just if there's a white space at the edge, go in and lightly scumble it. Another thing is there's like splotches that are darker or lighter. If they're lighter, scumble over them or do some really light linear strokes over them. And if they're darker, you're going to need to try to erase them, and what I recommend is almost like tapping your eraser. If we were in the art room, we would use kneaded erasers for this because it would work better. But you don't want your eraser to create new streaks. Another problem is visible lines with white space between them. And you can fill the white space by continuing to gently scumble up more layers. So now I'm going to try to fix this, and you can watch how. Okay, and I'm gonna say that looks pretty good. It might be a little bit darker in the top left, but I think it's more just the lighting in my room. I'm gonna call it good enough. So when your front face is good, then you go on and you do the side face with a darker value. And when you start, you don't want to push as hard as you can right away, because pressing as hard as you can to create a really dark value right away will dent your paper and leave streaks that can't be covered up and hidden. So you want to start with a medium pressure to create a dark value and then continue to build up more and more layers. It's kind of hard to film and go at the same time. So now that I have like it's not perfectly even, you can see like there's like a weird dark ledge there, but I've got like a base coat going. So I'm going to try to add another layer, again with medium pressure. And I'm kind of doing linear in some areas, circular in some areas. I usually find that I rotate my paper around so that it's like I can get more comfortable motions, but I don't want to deal with the camera and rotating and all of that. Okay. And so now I'm getting gradually heavier and heavier pressure so that I can build up dark values without scratching my paper. Yay, we did it. And the last face is going to be shaded as lightly as you possibly can. And this can be the trickiest one to make non-streaky, especially if you're using a mechanical pencil. If you're using a mechanical pencil, hopefully at some point you've like painted a wall in a house, and where the first coat you do your brush strokes this way, and then the second coat you do your brush strokes this way, and you kind of have to do the same thing if you're using a mechanical pencil, where like your first layer might be oval or linear this direction, and your second layer might be oval or linear this direction, and your third layer will be scumbling, because you need to fill in all the white space, and there's a lot more white space with a mechanical pencil because you don't have that big broad side of the pencil tip. Imagining this is the graphite. You have just like a skinny thing. All right, so I'm gonna shade this as lightly as I can now. And when your cube looks great, woo, then I guess, I'm gonna have you take pictures or something and send them to me just so I can see that you did it. But then you're gonna move on to do the gradient. Step 1 of creating the gradient involves drawing a rectangle. Mine's almost an inch wide and I don't know, 1.5 inches or something long. And it really doesn't matter if yours is sideways or, well, like if it's wide or tall, I don't really care. Whatever. And doesn't matter which end is light and which end is dark, as long as one end is light and one end is dark. So what I usually do is I'll start in the light end, going as lightly as I possibly can. And this is one of those things where I don't do all of my marks layered like this, getting heavier and heavier, because I find that every place they overlap, I end up with the whole like shaggy, dark shading effect. So I actually do a combination of different marks, and I will do a lot of it this way, but I also don't usually do it only that way because I feel like I have a hard time getting in the edges like close to my line and I don't know, just controlling stuff. So for right now, apparently my mood is I'm starting my light edge with kind of these stacks of shading, scumbling a little bit super lightly back over the overlap between those. And I do my light shade to about halfway up the box. And I'm going to turn this sideways. For the dark end. So for the dark end, just like when we did the cube, I don't press as hard as I can. I start with a almost as dark as I can, but like kind of a medium dark. I want to have wiggle room to make it darker if I needed. And I'll do about that much. And then I start to lighten my pressure. I usually go in and scumble my edges while I'm going. I don't just do it at the end. That way I can make sure I'm scumbling in the edges with the same amount of pressure that I was just using. Because if I try to go back and do the edges later, I might press too hard or too lightly. And too lightly is not a problem, you just build it up more. But too hard can be like, oops, I accidentally made it really dark. Yeah, so you can see now I'm kind of going down, getting lighter and lighter with my pressure. So this looks okay right now, but there's definitely an edge here, a dark spot there, an edge here, and a slightly too dark section here. So to address this section, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to just shade directly to the right of it. Super, super light scumbling to try to blend in and make the area just to the right of it darker without making that area darker. And I think I did pretty good, but now I have this lighter area, so I obviously have to scumble on that area. And I can scumble, I can do linear strokes, I can do oval strokes, just as long as it's nice light pressure, so you have a lot of control with the layers you're building up. This part of the transition looks pretty good now. Now I got to work on right here. So I'm going to add a little bit of graphite just to the left of that. And here. I might try to tap my eraser on this a little bit. And you can smudge these things to help yourself blend them as you're finishing, but the more you can practice without smudging, the better control you'll have and the easier it will be to get exactly what you want when you let yourself do smudging again. It's kind of like training for a sport, and you put on extra weights, like a weighted vest, and you do all your laps or your exercises, and then without the vest, it's suddenly like, I'm as strong as a superhero, this is so easy. So if you can train without smudging sometimes, then giving yourself back smudging means your drawings can be absolutely perfect, exactly how you want them. All right, so I've been going at it for a while. I'm going to try to do one last layer in the very darkest edge, and I am happy with that. So as you're going, if you're noticing things like this, you need to fix them. If you're noticing areas, let's see, where there's a lot of white space between your lines, you need to fix them. If you have a beautiful gradient, okay, this is not beautiful, but even if you have a beautiful gradient, if you have like white space here at the edges, you need to go in and fill that. If you have streaks, you need to go in and smooth it out. So your goal is to get the cube and a gradient all really nice and smooth, no streakiness. The cube should be solid medium, solid dark, solid light, and the gradient should be a transition from dark to light. So good luck. Please work on that. Feel free to submit pictures for me to give you suggestions on. And then when you're finished, I'll give you a grade. Good luck.